Canada has currently introduced two latest pathways through which you can relocate to Canada with your family and via a permanent residency route. Pathway, there are two job sectors that are open: the agricultural sector and the health sector. So if you belong to the health sector or the agricultural sector, definitely you want to pay close attention to this pathway. In this video, we're going to be looking at every information you need to kickstart on this pathway, eligibility criteria, who can apply, and the jobs that you can apply to be eligible for this pathway. So if this interests you, you want to watch this video till the very end. If you're seeing my video for the first time, thank you so much. My name is Njay and thank you for being here. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for all your likes, your comments, your shares. They support the channel and thank you so much. This pathway is with a particular province in Canada called the Saskatchewan province. And like I said, there are two job sectors that are open under this pathway. It's the agricultural sector and the health sector. So for the agricultural, we have the Agricultural Talent Pathway. So let's be looking at these and see what kind of jobs can apply here. So who is eligible for this? You may qualify for this subcategory if you live outside Canada or have proof of legal status in Canada. In other words, if you are living outside Canada, if you're an overseas applicant, it is more than okay, as long as you have the following. First of all, you need a language score of or which is equivalent to a CLB4. Okay, it's a very high score, so fairly enough you can achieve that. Obviously, with the IELTS, I do understand and I appreciate that IELTS is currently quite expensive, but at least you're going in there writing these exams with the assurance that you're getting it once, as opposed to if you were looking for very high scores. So a CLB4 is something, it's somewhere around IELTS band 5, so absolutely something that you can get in a sitting. So some employers or regulators may ask for scores that are higher than CLB4. Now obviously it depends on your employer, right? But generally a CLB5 is acceptable under this pathway. Now, you also must have completed secondary school. You remember when I said this has very low, you also must have completed secondary school. So this has very low requirement, which is absolutely brilliant. And that means that a lot of people are able to apply for this. If you have higher degrees, obviously, you're more than welcome to apply. But if you have a secondary school qualification and you have all other prerequisites, then you are more than welcome to apply as well. Then you should have at least 1 year of full-time work experience in the past 3 years in your intended occupation. You don't necessarily have to be there consistently, for example, 1 year. So it's possible that you have worked maybe for even 4 months and had a break and worked again. But overall, you need at least 1 year of full-time work experience in the past 3 years, okay? In the intended occupation. So you need to attest to your intent to work and reside in Saskatchewan. Now, obviously, I know that a lot of people who relocate to Canada would always want to stay in the big cities, Ontario, and places like that, where they feel that everything is happening there, and sometimes it's because you have relatives there. But for this program, you obviously have to be committed to living in Saskatchewan, because they're going to be issuing your permanent residence, and you need to as well have an offer for an eligible permanent full-time agricultural sector job in Saskatchewan. You will need a valid SINP job approval letter. Obviously, you get this, your employer would apply for this letter for you when they offer you a full-time permanent job. Okay. Now, employers must register with the SINP and obtain the job approval letter. This is for the employer, has nothing to do with you. But just know that when you obtain yourself a full-time permanent employer, the employer goes ahead to apply for an SINP approval letter for you. Okay. And that is what you use to apply for your permanent residence. Who cannot apply through this agricultural talent pathway? Let's see who would be wasting their time applying for this. So refugees claim that in Canada, if you're currently claiming, if you've claimed the refugee or you're currently waiting for an approval of your refugee status, then you are not eligible to apply. You may not be eligible as well if you did not provide the required documents at the time of submitting your application. So it's very important to pay attention to the documents that you need to submit alongside with your application. You were not able to prove that you plan to live and work in Saskatchewan, and then you and or your representative have intentionally misrepresented yourselves in the application. So obviously, if you do have a full-time permanent job, I would say that is enough proof that you plan to live and stay, or that you're committed to live in Saskatchewan. So how to apply? To apply, you need a job offer. So that's the very first thing. You need to seek for a job, look for a job. And to start your search, please visit here, okay? saskjobs.ca. Your employer will need to provide you with a job approval letter from the SINP. Additionally, please ensure that you follow the guidelines for the application process. Complete, scan, and submit all of the required documents, okay? So when you go in here to show you all the jobs, let's click into that. Come in here. What you basically do is to just click on search jobs, okay, and go into the keyword button and just type in. So if you already know what job you're looking for, the no code, you can put in the job number here. But if not, just go into keywords and type in agriculture. Okay, and this will give you all the agricultural jobs. Okay, and here they are: heavy duty or agricultural mechanic, heavy duty agricultural mechanic, shop foreman or service team lead, regional intelligence solutions manager. So here you see the agricultural related jobs that you can apply to: agricultural equipment technician, machine monitoring specialist, and all of that. So that's how you actually look for a job. If you are looking for a particular job, you just click into that. Say, for example, let's click on heavy duty or agricultural mechanic. Okay, so it tells you everything about the job, the employer, the contact name, the employer name, the description of of the job as well, what you'll be doing on this job, and everything basically you need to know. So contact email, careers at these da 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 da. So this is how you contact this company if you intend to apply for this job. Okay, and it's a full-time job and apply by the 30th of October 2024. How to apply? All applicants can be applications can be submitted to careers at this. So just send your application to this email. This is how you apply for this job. Okay, guys, remember, this is the first point of call to taking part in this pathway. So when you have this job, then your employer, then when they have offered you a full-time permanent job, they can go ahead to get you an SIMP approval letter. Okay, and with that, you can kickstart the process of your PR. So that's everything on the agricultural talent pathway. Now let's see the healthcare talent pathway. Okay, so this is the health talent pathway. It would have lots of similarities as well with the agricultural talent pathway. So under this pathway, you need to have an offer of a skilled job in Saskatchewan, and you need to meet the criteria of the subcategory and intend to reside as well in Saskatchewan as a permanent resident. Now, if you're also living outside Canada, you are more than welcome to apply for this. Okay, so you may qualify for this subcategory if you live outside Canada or have proof of legal status in Canada. If you have not been working for your supporting employer full time for at least 6 months, then you must have at least 1 year of work experience in your occupation within the last 5 years. Now, I hope this is very clear. So, what they're saying here is if you are currently in Canada and you're looking to apply for this, okay, so you need to have been working with your employer, okay, and for a period of 6 months, okay, and then they will be able to apply. Let's say you're working with them under a work permit or whatsoever, then they can apply for you for a permanent residency under this pathway if you have probably worked for them for a period of 6 months on a full time, and then you guys can, go back to a more permanent contract that can enable them make or launch this application for you. However, if you are not working with your current employer, then you would need to have had an experience of 1 year in the last 5 years. I hope this is clear, guys. So you need to be eligible as well for Saskatchewan licensing if applicable to your occupation. Obviously, we're talking about the health pathway here. So a lot of people obviously would need licenses. For example, nurses would need licenses to be able to practice in Canada if you are not trained or originally trained in Canada. So you need to have all of that done. If you're a doctor, a physiotherapist, a medical social worker, all those kind of professions obviously need licensing. So you need to make sure that you have the appropriate license. You need to have a post-secondary education that relates to the job you've been offered. Okay, so if, for example, you're going for medical social works, then you need to have had a college qualification that definitely relates to whatever you're applying for. Master's or bachelor's degree or a 3 year degree at a university or college, or a diploma that requires 2 years at a university, college, trade, or technical solution, or other post-secondary institution. You see, so this is actually one of like the major difference between this pathway and the agricultural pathway. So with the agricultural pathway, you don't necessarily need all of this. You don't need all those higher academic qualifications. A secondary school basically would be like the minimum requirement. However, here you need all of these, the licensing, the educational qualification up to be a little bit up than the secondary school, and whatever you have done after your secondary education must be relevant to what you're applying for. Now, you need to attest your intent to work and reside in Saskatchewan. You need to have an offer of an eligible permanent full-time health sector job in Saskatchewan. You will need a valid SINP job approval letter, obviously, and this will be applied by your employer when they give you the offer. So employers must register with SINP. Now, this is the employer's business, and here are the jobs that comes. Here are the eligible jobs that comes under this pathway. So you have the job descriptions and the knock numbers as well. So managers in healthcare, specialists in clinical and laboratory medicine, specialists in surgery, dentists, optometrists, audiologists, pharmacists, dietitians, psychologists, chiropractors, physiotherapists, occupational therapists, so many of them, right? Nursing coordinators and supervisors, registered nurses and registered psychiatric nurses, nurse practitioners, opticians, licensed practical nurses, paramedical occupations, respiratory therapists, and so many of them. Like, the list is endless, guys. So the links are all going to be in the description, and you will get in here and have a look for yourself. Now, the program criteria can change at any time. However, the SIMP applies the criteria listed on the website when your applications is received. So even though the criteria can be changed, okay, there is no guarantee that it will continue to be the same. However, what is there at the time when your application is submitted is what you are going to be judged with. Even if it changes after you have lodged your application, you are going to be judged by the criteria that are stated on the website at the time that you submit your application. So if I were you, I definitely want to put in my papers together and start lodging in my application, because we don't know which way it's going to change. Maybe it's going to be even more difficult. It's always more difficult if you if you know that, right? So I definitely think the wise thing to do is to go ahead and lodge your applications immediately. Now, if you're going, or if you're eligible, if you're going via the express entry route, okay, let's see what are your options here. Only those accepted into IRCC express entry pool are eligible through the stream. Express entry applications receive priority Express entry applications receive priority processing by IRCC for permanent residency, with expected permanent residency application processing times of 6 months or less. So, if, in other words, if you are actually eligible for the express entry pool, it is very, very advisable that you go via the express entry, because, like you see, you're going to be given a priority consideration with your application. As a candidate in IRCC Express Entry Pool, you may qualify for this subcategory if you live outside Canada or have proof of legal status in Canada and you are not a refugee. Okay, so you need to have a valid Express Entry profile number and a job seeker. So for those of you who are currently on the Express Entry Pool, now going via this pathway is actually gonna expedite your process. Okay, if you are qualified for any of these things, apply for them immediately, and then with the fact that you already have a place in the pool, it is definitely going to make your process even faster and better. So you need to have an English and a French language score of a CLB 7 or higher. Meet the following work experience requirement. If you're applying from inside or outside Canada, 1 year of skilled related work experience in the past 5 years in your intended eligible occupation. Be eligible for Saskatchewan licensing if it is applicable to your occupation. We've talked about this. You need to have a post-secondary education that relates to the job you've been offered. Okay, either a master's or a bachelor's or a 3-year degree program. It could be a diploma, anything from a vocational school. All will apply to this. Okay, so attest your intent to work and reside in Saskatchewan and have an offer for an eligible permanent full-time health sector job in Saskatchewan. Now, we've actually looked at the jobs as well that are eligible under this pathway. And yeah, there you go. So, who cannot apply for this? I suppose it would be the same thing. So, you did not provide the required documents at the time of submitting your application. You were not able to prove that that you plan to live and work in Saskatchewan, and you and your representatives have intentionally misrepresented yourselves in the application. Now, how do you start your application? Obviously, the first thing you need to do, I guess you know what you need to do, is to look for a job. Now, make sure you have a perfect CV. I always say this, right? Because I always talk about jobs, and it's very important that you have the right CV ever before you can start applying for your job. So make sure you have a CV in a Canadian format, and make sure you have something really good, including your cover letter, before you can kickstart your application. So click into that. SASK jobs or CA, and you will see all the jobs as well, just like we did with the agricultural sector, and you will see what jobs apply to you. And however you can apply for the job would always be stated on the website, on the job portal, whether you're to do an email or whether you're to click into an application link, it will always be there. So follow whatever instructions are given to you. To complete, scan, and submit all your required documents. And applications that are submitted with missing documents or not translated will be returned. If your application is returned, you'll be sent a letter and asked to reapply. So you definitely want to pay attention to your documentation while you're making your application. And you as well remember that, the criteria on the website at the time that you make your application, you lodge or you submit your application, they are the criteria that actually apply to you. If the criteria are changed after you have lodged your application, it would not be applicable to you. So, guys, I think this is actually a pretty straightforward process. If you have any confusions, please put your comments down in the comment section, ask your questions in the comment section, and I'll be happy to answer them. Best of luck if you're making this application. And I think it's something that you should dump into, especially if you're on the express entry pool already. And if you're not as well, I think that this is definitely something that you should as well, hop on because of the requirements being so low and how fast this can get you to Canada. So best of luck if you're making this application, and let me know if you have any confusions in the comment section. I would love to clarify them. The links as well will be in the description below, and you can log into the links and have a read through for yourself and see how you can start with this application. Until then, guys, I'll see you in my next video. Remember to stay safe and stay out of trouble.